Ladies and gentlemen, there is power in presence, but there is even greater power in absence. We live in a world where we chase connections, fearing that if we step back we will be forgotten. But the truth is, those who truly value you will notice when you are not around. Have you ever experienced a moment when someone you deeply cared for didn't appreciate your efforts? Maybe you kept reaching out, offering kindness, only to be met with silence or indifference. That is because when something is always available, it is often taken for granted. The same applies to you. Sometimes the best thing you can do is step away, not in anger, not in resentment, but with quiet confidence. Let them miss you. Let them realize the value of your presence by experiencing your absence. Silence is a powerful tool. When you stop explaining, when you stop proving your worth, people begin to wonder. They reflect, they remember, and if they truly cherish you, they will find their way back to you. But this is not just about others, this is about self-respect. When you stop chasing, you allow yourself to grow. You discover who genuinely cares and who was only there out of convenience. Time has a way of revealing true intentions. Life is a constant flow. Some people are meant to stay and some are meant to leave, and that is okay. What is important is that you do not lose yourself trying to hold on. So my message to you today is simple. Do not be afraid to walk away. Do not be afraid to let them miss you. Because when they do, they will understand what they once had. And if they don't, you will know it was never meant to be. Detachment brings value. We often believe that the more we give, the more we will be appreciated. We pour our time, energy, and emotions into relationships, friendships, and even professional spaces, thinking that constant presence equals lasting significance. However, reality often proves the opposite. When something is always available, it loses its perceived value. This is the essence of detachment. It is not about indifference or coldness, but about creating space for appreciation to grow. Consider the way we treat everyday luxuries. Imagine having access to fresh air every day. It is free, abundant, and essential, yet we rarely stop to think about it. Now, contrast that with a rare fragrance, one that is expensive, exclusive, and only available in limited quantities. Which one is more appreciated? The rarity makes the latter valuable, even though fresh air is far more necessary for survival. Human relationships function in a similar way. When we are constantly present, always answering calls, always saying yes, always available, we may unknowingly reduce our own value in the eyes of others. Detachment is a lesson in self-respect. It does not mean you care less, it means you care enough to allow space for appreciation to develop. When you detach from the need to be constantly seen, heard, or validated, you give others the opportunity to realize your worth in your absence. People often fail to recognize the significance of something until it is gone. That is why moments of separation can create stronger bonds than moments of relentless pursuit. Think about the relationships in your life. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to value you more when you take a step back? Perhaps a friend who took your kindness for granted suddenly reaches out when you stop initiating contact. Maybe a workplace that overlooked your efforts begins to notice your contributions only when you take a break. This happens because distance creates perspective. When you remove yourself from a situation, people have the chance to see what life is like without you in it. Detachment does not mean shutting people out. It means allowing natural appreciation to take place. This applies to all aspects of life, whether it's a romantic relationship, a friendship, or even your professional worth. The more you chase validation, the more you risk diminishing your perceived value. But when you walk away, when you allow silence to take its course, You invite others to reflect on what they might be losing. Of course, this does not mean playing mind games or manipulating others into missing you. Genuine detachment is an act of confidence, not insecurity. It is not about withholding love or affection, but about understanding that true appreciation comes from choice, not obligation. The people who truly care for you will notice your absence and seek to bridge the gap. Those who do not will never truly meant to stay. At its core, detachment is about trust. Trusting that what is meant for you will never require you to exhaust yourself to keep it. It is about respecting yourself enough to step back when necessary and letting life reveal who truly values you. It is about knowing that your worth is not tied to how often you are present in someone else's life, but in the depth of the impact you leave behind. So, the next time you find yourself giving too much, chasing too hard, or feeling underappreciated, pause. Take a step back. Allow space for others to miss you. And in that space, you will discover who truly sees your value and who was only there because you were always available. Silence speaks louder. In a world that never stops talking, silence can be the most powerful statement of all. We are conditioned to believe that we must constantly explain ourselves, fight for attention, or prove our worth through words and actions. But sometimes, the most effective way to be heard is to say nothing at all. Think about the moments when someone you deeply cared about suddenly stopped reaching out. Did you notice their absence? Did their silence make you wonder what changed? That is the power of silence. It forces reflection. It makes people think. It creates a space where emotions, memories, and realizations have the chance to surface. When we continuously try to make others understand us, we often end up saying too much. We explain, we argue, we defend, we repeat ourselves, hoping that if we just say it the right way, they will finally see our value. But in doing so, we sometimes diminish our own presence. The more you explain your worth, the less people feel the need to recognize it on their own. True appreciation does not come from words alone. It comes from a deep, internal realization, and silence allows that realization to happen. Imagine being in a disagreement with someone. Your instinct might be to defend your position, to explain why you feel the way you do, or to convince them to see things from your perspective. But what if, instead of engaging in an endless back and forth, you simply chose to remain silent, not as a punishment, but as a statement of self-respect? Your silence forces the other person to process the situation without distractions. It makes them sit with their thoughts, their emotions, and, most importantly, the absence of your words. In many cases, this has a greater impact than any argument ever could. This concept is not just applicable in conflicts, but in all aspects of life. Have you ever noticed how the most respected individuals are often the ones who speak less? They do not feel the need to prove themselves with excessive words. Instead, they let their actions, their presence, and sometimes their silence do the talking. When they do speak, their words carry more weight because they are not constantly seeking validation through noise. Silence also reveals truth. When you stop reaching out to someone, their response tells you everything you need to know. Do they notice? Do they reach out? Or do they simply move on, unaffected by your absence? If someone never notices your silence, it is a sign that your presence was not valued as much as you believed, and that is an important lesson, one that can save you from investing your time and energy in the wrong people. But silence is not just about others. It is also about self-growth. In moments of stillness, we hear our own thoughts more clearly. We gain insight into our own emotions, our desires, and our direction in life. When we constantly engage in external noise, we miss out on the wisdom that comes from within. So, if you ever feel the urge to constantly explain, to prove your worth, or to fight for attention, pause, choose silence. Let your absence be felt, let your value be realized, and let others come to their own understanding of what you mean to them. Because sometimes the loudest thing you can say is nothing at all. Self-respect over approval. One of the biggest mistakes we make in life is seeking approval at the cost of our self-respect. We bend, we compromise, we overextend ourselves, hoping that if we give enough, if we prove ourselves enough, others will finally see our worth. But the truth is, the more you chase approval, the less respect you command. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how people are drawn to those who carry themselves with quiet confidence? It is not because they beg for attention or constantly seek validation. It is because they know their worth, whether others acknowledge it or not. This is the difference between someone who demands respect and someone who naturally earns it. Many of us spend years trying to please people, friends, family, colleagues, or even strangers. We say yes when we want to say no. We tolerate disrespect because we fear confrontation. We over-explain ourselves, hoping to be understood. And yet, in doing all of this, we lose the very thing that makes us valuable, our self-respect. Approval is fleeting. No matter how much you do for others, it is never enough. There will always be someone who expects more, who does not appreciate your efforts, or who takes your kindness for granted. If your happiness depends on their approval, you will always feel empty. But when you choose self-respect, you set a standard. You communicate without words that you are not available to be used, manipulated, or undervalued. Walking away is one of the greatest acts of self-respect, not because you are angry or bitter, but because you refuse to be in spaces where you are not valued. Some people will only realize your worth when you stop proving it, and that is their loss, not yours. This is not about arrogance. It is not about thinking you are better than others. It is about recognizing that your time, your energy, and your presence are valuable. And if someone does not see that, it is not your job to convince them. The right people will recognize your worth without you having to beg for it. Self-respect also means setting boundaries. It means not allowing others to guilt-trip you into staying in situations that drain you. It means walking away from toxic relationships, declining opportunities that do not align with your values, and refusing to let fear control your decisions. Of course, standing up for yourself is not always easy. There will be moments when you doubt your decision, when you wonder if you should have tried harder, when you miss the people or situations you walked away from. But remember this: every time you choose self-respect over approval, you reinforce your value, and over time the world begins to treat you the way you treat yourself. The most successful, respected, and admired individuals are not the ones who seek approval. They are the ones who carry themselves with quiet dignity, who know their worth, and who are willing to let go of anything that does not align with their values. So, if you ever find yourself in a situation where you have to choose between being liked and being respected, choose respect. Because people may forget the words you say or the things you do, but they will always remember how you carried yourself. And in the end, it is not approval that defines your worth. It is the way you honor yourself when no one else is watching. Time reveals true connections. Time has a way of revealing everything: truth, loyalty, and the real value of relationships. When you take a step back, when you stop initiating every conversation, when you remove yourself from a situation, you begin to see who truly cares and who was only there out of convenience. Many people stay in our lives not because they genuinely value us, but because we make things easy for them. We check in, we show up, we make an effort, so they simply go along with it. But what happens when you stop? When you stop reaching out? When you stop being the one to always make the first move? Who still remains? That is where time becomes the great revealer. Genuine connections do not fade with silence or distance. If someone truly cares, they will notice your absence. They will reach out, not because they need something, but because they value your presence. On the other hand, if someone disappears the moment you stop trying, it is a clear sign that your relationship was built on your effort alone. This can be a painful realization, but it is also a necessary one. Too often we hold on to people out of habit, not realizing that the bond was never mutual. We fear stepping away because we do not want to lose them. But in reality, if someone vanishes when you stop chasing them, they were never truly there to begin with. Think about the strongest relationships in your life. They are not the ones where you constantly have to prove yourself. They are the ones where time and distance do not change the foundation. Months, even years can pass, and yet the connection remains the same. That is what real friendship, real love, and real loyalty look like. This applies to all areas of life: friendships, romantic relationships, and even professional connections. In work, for example, if you suddenly stop overextending yourself and people no longer acknowledge your efforts, it is a sign that they valued what you did, not who you are. But when people respect you for more than just what you can offer, they will continue to value you, regardless of how often you are present. This does not mean you should test people by cutting them off to see if they care. True connection is not about playing games. It is about letting relationships breathe naturally and observing what happens when you stop forcing things. Healthy relationships do not require constant reassurance or one-sided effort. Many people fear being forgotten, but the truth is, the right people will never forget you. They will notice when you are missing. They will wonder how you are doing. And most importantly, they will make the effort to reach out. Because you matter to them, not just as a convenience, but as a person. So, if you find yourself always being the one who gives, always being the one who reaches out, always being the one who holds everything together, pause, take a step back, let time do its work. Because in the silence, in the absence, in the space where effort is no longer one-sided, you will see who truly belongs in your life. And that knowledge is worth more than 1,000 forced conversations. Embrace the flow of life. Life is constantly moving, changing, and evolving. Nothing stays the same forever. People change, circumstances shift, and relationships transform. The sooner we learn to embrace this natural flow, the more peace we will find. One of the hardest lessons in life is accepting that not everyone is meant to stay. Some people come into our lives to teach us, to support us, or to share a chapter of our journey. But not everyone is meant to be there until the end, and that is okay. We often hold on too tightly to people, to memories, to expectations. We fear losing connections, so we try to force relationships that have already run their course. But what we do not realize is that letting go is not a loss. It is an act of trust. It is trusting that what is meant for us will remain, and what leaves was never truly ours to keep. When you step back, when you allow space for life to flow naturally, you start to see things more clearly. You stop clinging to situations that drain you. You stop chasing people who do not value your presence. And in doing so, you create room for what is truly meant for you. Think about the ocean. The waves come and go, yet the sea remains. Life works the same way. People will enter and exit your world, but your journey continues. Some people will leave, and their absence will make room for those who genuinely appreciate you. Some opportunities will fade, only to be replaced by better ones. This does not mean you should become indifferent or emotionless. It means you should approach life with an open heart, but also with the wisdom to know when to release what no longer serves you. The tighter you hold on to something that is slipping away, the more pain you cause yourself. But when you trust the process, when you allow things to unfold as they are meant to, you will find that life has a way of bringing exactly what you need at the right time. It is also important to understand that sometimes you will be the one who needs to step away, not out of resentment, but out of self-respect. If a situation is draining you, if a relationship is no longer bringing joy, if an environment is making you feel unseen, it is okay to walk away. You do not need to explain yourself. You do not need to beg to be understood. Your peace is more important than trying to hold on to something that no longer fits your path. Letting go is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of strength. It takes courage to release what is familiar. It takes faith to trust that what is meant for you will always find you. And it takes wisdom to know that sometimes absence speaks louder than presence. So, embrace the flow of life. Allow space for appreciation to grow. Let people miss you. Let life surprise you. And most of all, trust that what is truly meant for you will never require you to hold on so tightly that you lose yourself in the process.